Stochastic fiction game. This is a timed writing game. I'm going to give myself 1 hour, 21 minutes to write a story based upon this stochastic outline I'm about to create. And within the stochastic outline is a bunch of story elements that I must follow to play the game, write a story with the outline, or the story elements rather, and at the end read the story and rate the story to see if I feel like I like the story. For today's stochastic fiction game story elements, we have setting time past, setting main location amusement park, conflict person versus supernatural, quantity of primary characters 1, point of view first, tense present tense, genre fantasy adventure, format novel first chapter. Those are the story elements for the stochastic fiction game today. I now need to write a story within the next hour and 20-ish minutes that use these story elements, and it's going to be the novel, first chapter of a novel. So I have to think of a novel. Sometimes writing a blurb will help, but this is the first chapter. The middle chapter can be a little hard. That is a story element that can be with the stochastic fiction game, but it's the final, and they got amusement park. And I see fantasy adventure as a genre. The first thing that came to mind was the Dungeons and Dragons cartoon, where they do go to a fantasy park and they do take the Dungeons and Dragons ride, and they end up in a magical world for fantasy adventure to happen. I don't know how that would have to do with supernatural. I guess Dungeons and Dragons could be supernatural, but I also know that that's not my story because let's be original. So it has to be in the past and fantasy adventure. In the past, at amusement park even. Fudge. So there has to be some fantasy aspect to this, and it has to, I guess it could take place on Earth. I could throw fantasy, because when I say past, it's a hard one to write if you're writing in your own world, because who knows it's really past, it's fake versus real time now. Well, at least we all agree. Whether it's real or not, I suppose, because we all agree that it's real, there's a thing called time. And so when I see past, and we all can agree upon it, that I think automatically that's going to have to be on Earth as we know it, in the past, at amusement park even, because I don't know many, which would be cool, I suppose, if you're writing like a Dungeons and Dragons or Paizo Pathfinder or even a Daggerheart book, or you're creating your own fantasy world, which I highly suggest that you do, because all those others are intellectual property and you can be creative on your own. You can. And if you so choose to be creative and you're writing a fantasy story, I've never wrote one nor read one where there was an amusement park. So that's even more reason to kind of put the world on Earth in the past. Already thinking of an amusement park that I used to go to called Lagoon. I believe it's been bought out by Six Flags or some other major theme park, amusement park owner, I believe. I could be totally wrong. I probably am. But that's my memory. For an amusement park. Person versus supernatural. I know I've probably wrote a story in an amusement park with this similar conflict, similar setting. This is going to have to be the perspective of the person. So they're going to have to be dead. I would imagine person versus supernatural. Tense, present tense. That's good. That's what I write by default typically. First person, I gotta think of a voice. Present tense, fantasy adventure, novel first chapter. This has to be a book, not a flash fiction story. Which can be helpful. It's not like I have to tie up plot points and I have to resolve all the conflicts. I just have to set the stuff up. This is the chapter, first chapter. So let's call it Lagoon. I don't want to think too much. So the title of the book's called Lagoon. And the chapter will be called, maybe they die, maybe, if it's person versus supernatural. At an amusement park, the amusement park I know, like I don't want it to be the ghosts come out at night. Although that'd be cool. You always wonder why the rides are going at night. Why do the rides play at night? Supernatural. There has to be, what's the conflict that or the person becomes a supernatural and they die at the amusement park. But what's popping into mind right now, thinking of dying at an amusement park, is like really scary rides and rides that that actually kind of broke and hurt people. There's one called, I think it was Wild Mouse. Man, that one literally would be riding it, and it was like one of those two-person cars, and it would just jerk around this flat track going really fast, and one side would literally at times lift up off the track because it did like a 90-degree turn or a 45-degree turn at a high velocity, but not terribly. And it was a single car, and there was a reality of one of those cars actually fell off one time. I think it really hurt the person because the car fell on him. It didn't kill him. They didn't come a ghost, but that's thing come to mind like that. Some ride accident maybe. Maybe you're on the swing and it breaks. The first person is a little bit more difficult because then you'd want the first person, the one that dies. And what's then the conflict? And a book worth of conflict. Is there a bunch of ghosts at this amusement park that are like wanting to take over and make sure that the people don't have fun? Person versus nature, not nature. Person versus supernatural. They're dead. They gotta maybe like the fighting of it to realize you're dead, like all those sort of stories where the person's has an encounter and then they realize at the end of the movie, oh my God, they're really dead. Or even more direct, they die, they wake up, and it takes them a little while to realize they're dead, but they don't want to be dead, and they're around a bunch of dead people. And that's a conflict. And then the end of the book would be whether they become and accept their fate or they die. It is a fantasy adventure, so it fits right in. And it's in the past, sure. I don't put this anywhere you want. I'm going to put it in the past. May, let's try to do the fantasy amusement park. Yeah. Because even writing in the present, if it was future, I could do that. Earth fantasy adventure with like a sci-fi fantasy adventure, but then it'd be sci-fi, not fantasy. Fantasy adventures like Pathfinder stories and medieval hero system stories and Dungeons and Dragons and Daggerheart and other gaming systems and other worlds that I'm gonna do that. I'm going to make an amusement park in a medieval world. And they got to fight against the ghosts that somehow this fantasy adventure. So it's going to be, and what did I not get? Of course I forgot a dice. Is there like a random number generator? I can flip something. I don't want to think about it. I don't want to know why I picked this gender because it fit the role. If they're not having sex or some sort of need to call out the body, humans are pretty similar. Our bodies do define us definitely though, and then society defines us as we're in our bodies. It's always hard to escape that, even in a fantasy adventure world. So it may have an effect. And especially if the society in this fantasy adventure world is sexist, misogynistic, which I think the world right now is very much composed of misogyny. In fact, I dare to say the world's more misogynistic, misogyny than racist. I think we as a society demean women more than they do other races. It's unfortunate. Let's have it about that. This is going to be, I'm not going to roll the dice today. It's going to be, in this world too, like, you're like muscle bound. And I guess, and I say this world, this fantasy world, I make up this world so I can define how the bodies are categorized and how they're treated. And the prejudices bring in before you even meet a person. I could write that story. But let's write a fantasy adventure. And she is a wizard. And she wants to make a fantasy adventure amusement park. I don't have to go dark with this, right? I mean, it's not horror. I got to do fantasy adventure. What is wrong with fantasy adventure that is actually, well, I mean, a little bit good, not dystopia, not fighting the very obviously bad person who wants to take over the world because they're a dictator and you have to go fight that bad person and that's the ultimate conflict. Ooh, that's been done. It's done well. It's been done many times. Hell, I kind of wrote that story for the Small Shield, but at least mine ended where the hero wasn't the hero. They were just a distraction. And that was more about defeat and the fact that the enemy was everywhere if you wanted to look at everyone as an enemy. We're going to have this be this would be a fun. What would be the first chapter? It's going to be called Lagoon. Her name. What is her name? I don't have any. I'm trying to think like when I solo game to write novels and stories and create dioramas for stop motion. Do I have a character I've used there that would be fun just to use to develop them? This is like the stochastic part, I suppose, of it is that I'm given a bunch of random elements. And as a human, I will eventually, I'm limited by the scope, but it's still random. Anyway, I'm just lost. I'm trying to think of like, let's not think about it anymore. Let's just make up a name. I don't want a weird name. Talon, Talon. Let's go Talon. Oh, she's gonna want to open up a damn a fantasy adventure amusement park. Hell yes. And I'll use like spells I know. Spells I know. The spells I know to cast at night. No. Spells I've read from role-playing books, which would be like Pathfinder, Dungeons and Dragons, Hero System. I've never done fantasy adventure with Hero System. Just sci-fi and Western. And I got an expansive. Where am I going to put this in my world? Because this is going to become part of the Small Shield world. And it's got to be someplace where there's a lot of people in through traffic to where you want to be able to, maybe it's a destination. We'll put it on like the coast, right? Because what time do I got? Okay, I got a little bit, I don't know. Talon. Talon's parents pressed their mouths closed, Talen's parents pressed their lips. Blocking rage. Blocking venomous words. Now, blocking their minds from creating things like I use wizard. Mage was the word that I'm thinking of. But I'm going to use wizard instead. Your wizard schooling. What's an amusement park? Talen's parents pressed their lips, blocking them from saying things like, "We wasted money on your wizard schooling," and "What's an amusement park?" Talen didn't need her magic to read their minds because their clenched jaws and aiming and glares read enough. Read like her spell book when all Talen's parents pressed their lips, blocking them from saying things like, "We wasted money on your schooling," and "What's an amusement park?" I suppose this should be, I don't know. So Talen's parents pressed their lips, blocking them from saying things like, "We wasted money on your wizard schooling," and "What's an amusement park?" Talen did need their magic and read their minds because their clenched jaws and glares read like her spell book. Read like her spell book when she Talen did need her magic to read their minds because their clenched jaws and glares read like her spell book when she thought. Talen did need her magic to read their minds because their clenched jaws and glares read like her spellbook when she thought. When she said, "An amusement park." Is I mean, how would you define if you were amusement park, amusement park? We're gonna just assume that they're using our same language, of course. I mean, you kind of have to, unless you're not gonna be able to read it. Familiar to us humans, on Earth, that is. And English, American English, is the language I know best, so that's what it's going to be written in for today. Talen's parents pressed their lips, blocking them. Blah, blah, blah. I don't want to read that too many times because I got other things to do. Talen did need her magic to read. Didn't. I need a didn't. Not a need. Didn't. Talen didn't need her magic to read their minds because their clenched jaws and glares read like her spell book when she said, An amusement park is a place to cast spells to bring the muse an amusement park is a place to cast spells and bring the muse and entice. I think this would be kind of a fun story. I think so, at least. I think I'm going to have this as a backstory, maybe, if I don't lift it from someplace else. An amusement park is a place to cast spells for the mini NPCs I got to build up. An amusement park is a place to cast spells to entice the muse, to bring joy. With to entice the muse. For the people at the park. All right, so I'm going to leave that, and I'm going to go. I guess this is present tense, though. Man, I typically go first tense. I probably went past tense because I'm thinking fantasy adventure. I'm going to have to go back in the past because I want to at least build up the story of how Talen's parents pressed their lips, blocking them from saying things like, we wasted money on your wizard schooling and what's an amusement park. Talen didn't need her magic to read their minds because their clenched jaws and glares read like a spell book when she said, an amusement park is a place to cast spells to entice the muse for the people. Yeah. Welcome to life and I need to start writing in the past tense a little bit more, especially for the fantasy books I'm writing series. Just because going in the past tense is a lot easier if you're already in past tense. It seems really awkward if you have like present perfect and perfect past. At least in my mind, it can be. And in the mind of other writers, because when I've taken words to Writers' Workshop to try to attempt to do that, it just seems awkward. I always get called out, and rightfully so, probably. Talen. Okay, so I gotta throw down. Didn't need her magic to read their minds. Like, did I delete something? I didn't. Okay, what's an amusement park? I want one more question. We wasted money on your wizards going. What's an amusement park? Talen. I'm gonna go past. Present perfect. Present tense. It's in the now. I could go past tense next chapter. I guess the blurb would be, I'll think of the blurb after it. I got 55 minutes. I got to complete a chapter and at least set it. I think I've already set it up. But I got to add more depth. I got to add some character. Why would you want to continue to read it? It's decent. It's a decent opening paragraph, but it's just one paragraph of a supposed book that could exist someday that I'll never write. I may not have time to think of all the other related chapters today, but that's okay. Tailends. Still feels the laughter from the principal. The high mage. The magical boarding school. What's it called? Woven Destiny. Woven Arts. Talon feels the laughter from the high mage. Remembers the laughter from her mind mage at the magical boarding school Woven Arts. And the words, "You're wasting magic on joy." The other wizards. And I suppose there's probably, I'm sure someone's done this. I haven't. But someone's done this. I don't know if they've done it in like the fantasy settings in which I'm familiar with. Which is Paizo's Pathfinder. That world I'm pretty familiar with. I haven't gamed in it much. The Dungeons and Dragons worlds, I know. Because I gamed in those a lot. Those were the main gaming system I played with 30 years ago. And then Darrington Press's Daggerheart. I've been playing the rules, but I haven't ventured in one of their worlds yet. I am sure in Daggerheart, someone's already created a magical amusement park. I don't know where the undead's coming in. I still got that parameter. But I've never written a story like this. And what I was getting at with that is like most of the fantasy adventure I grew up on was always like dark, seedy. Yeah, and a little bit racist. I mean, and sexist. Hugely sexist. Misogyny. Overruled racism in that. Overruled, overwhelmed, I guess, overpowered. Yeah. So let's go back to the story elements and let's kind of refocus on what needs to be done because I'm realizing I don't have this first person. Fudge. Okay, present tense in the past, that's fine. Amusement park, well, the chapter could be in the past. It's going to be your past memories, right? So, amusement park, we're getting to there. There's a book. Definitely theme is amusement park. Supernatural first. Damn it. My parents press their lips. Let's just do that. My parents press their lips. They don't presses, they press. I'm not going to press as a thing. And I'll just say, hey, my parents press their lips. Taylin, we wasted money on your wizarding school, and what's an amusement park? I didn't need magic to read their minds. Let's make it more like talking. Their clenched jaws and glares, red like my spill, red like a spell. So I say, it's not bad. I remember the laughter. Just gotta make the shorter sentences. I remember the words. I'm gonna throw in. I remember the spoil. I remember spoil. What are like apprentices? Apprentice. I hope that's apprentice. I'm gonna look that word up with the search and return engine. I'm confident I don't have it right. Let's see. It is a C. Apprent with the C. Okay. The Summer of the Spilled Apprentice. Manny from Waterdown. How am I going to get teased at wizard schools and apprentice, and I want to make an amusement park? What's the sort of, what would be the, I don't know. If I was a wizard in an amusement park, I'm not a wizard in an amusement park. And neither is this character right yet. They're working up to that, and that's what the novel's about. Now, let's write a blurb real quick. Let's do this. So, Lagoon is about Taylin. Talin. Oh man, I forgot how to spell their name already. Talin wants to open an amusement park near in the city-state of Desert Port. She only need convince the world. To define an amusement park ride, to find to the people an amusement park ride. Okay. Taylin wants to open an amusement park near the city-state of Desertport. She only needs to find the people in an amusement park ride what is and convince them to pay coin to ride it. Taylin also feels like she needs to prove to her parents they didn't waste money sending her to wizard boarding school. While discovering accepting money from the Thieves Guild branching comes with deadly Okay, so that's the blurb. Be the back of the book. I call it Lagoon. I don't know why, just because I grew up in an amusement park and there was an amusement park called Lagoon. And maybe this is going to be by water down. It's going to be by some water. Maybe the Aden River. That would be my fantasy world. Could be thrown out there too. But let's call this chapter. What's this chapter? What's an amusement park? Yeah, my parents pressed their lips, blocking them from saying things like, Taylin, we wasted money on your wizard schooling and what's an amusement park? I didn't need magic to read their minds. Their clenched jaws and glares read like a spell book and a spell, like a spell in a spell book, so I say. An amusement park is a place to cast spells to entice the muse for the people at the park. I remember the laughter from the high school mage, the high mage at the magical boarding school, Woven Arts, and the words, you're wasting your money, your magic on joy and hope. I remember the spoiled apprentice Manny from Waterdown, teasing the other wizards and teasing me in front of the other wizards. Okay. Or what's this like? Or the spell comprehension. I don't know what I blinked out. I was trying to put them in the garden, but now teasing. I got an A. I need an A right there. Teasing with an A. Teasing with an A makes it a little bit better. Teasing me on the front of the wall, in front of the other wizards, or during spell comprehension class. Even Dara, my closest friend, will not. Does not. Will not. Does not. I remember the spoiled apprentice Manny from Waterdown teasing me on front, in front of the on front of the others, on front, in front, in front, in front of the others. I got 39 minutes left. When walking around Aura Garden or during spell comprehension class, even Dara, my closest friend, smirks and giggles. Walking around Aurora Garden or during spell, or sitting. Even Dara, my closest friend, smirks and giggles, shaking her head when I tell her I want to create an amusement park. I may have to pause for a moment. I'm going to get some more water. I'm going to be right back. And coffee. 36 minutes left in the stochastic fiction game. We're doing fantasy today, so maybe the tagging that I left up in is effective. Fantasy adventure. Let's get back to this fantasy adventure and this wizard whose name is Talin, who wants to make an amusement park. How would you end the first chapter of this story? Like, I've set it up pretty decent. I like I'm doing decent, I feel, as far as creating the world. I remember the spoiled apprentice Manny when I wanted to tell her to create an amusement park. It's now it still says, we talk through speaking stones. Laughter clears, and frees my mind to see magic. And in the laughter, I can only want to spread the joy. I still think when Mage Taylor, no, I don't want another T. I got 33 minutes. How am I going to end this chapter? Make sure I got story parameters first, of course. It isn't whatever past means in this fantasy adventure. This is, I guess she's looking in the past. So this chapter, because this has to be written as if it's the novel, first chapter of a novel. Last chapter, middle chapter, and flash fiction are really the only other options for format. That's what I have for format. I have first person. I have present tense most. Yeah. Primary characters right now. We got one. Supernatural. It's going to end that she knows ghosts. Ghosts are going to help her. Amusement park. Past. Okay. I need to deal with the spirit, the spiritual, the magical, the supernatural. I suppose the fact that they can cast spells, that everything about this is supernatural, but let's have a supernatural conflict of the place that she finds. I'm still a mage. I'm still a mage. I'm a mage. I only want to spread joy. Laughter to create my head. Laughter creates my head and frees my mind, fills my head. I guess laughter could create a head somehow. It's a magical world. It'd be kind of awkward. Fills my soul and frees my mind. To see magic, and in the laughter, I only want to spread joy. My magic comes from joy. Telling my parents explaining my magic comes from joy. So why would I not want to make I need joy to cast spells. I tell my parents while they sit on the steps of my old home. Where is this going to be at in my fictional world of the small shield in Eden Valley? I mean, I feel like it'd be like in the city state. And now, man, they're gonna be backwoods. City tastes way too sophisticated for this. Work town, no. Maybe Lino. No, let's go Vine Wine. Sitting on the steps of my old home in Vine Wine. That's stupid. That's clown. Says my dad. My mom just shakes her head and says that makes no sense. That's clown. Instead of that's stupid, that's going to be like the insult to yourself of intelligence. That's clown. Says my dad. My mom just shakes and says, that makes no sense. Can't you just get angry? Get all riled. That makes no sense. Can't you just get rich? I don't know where I was going. Get angry. And cast magic missile. Dad nods, looking through the trees to the strong grass fields. Mother's not wrong. More money and shooting. I don't know what to say. I mean, there is more money in attacking than there is laughing. Even in our society. Mom nods. I'm just standing there. What you tell? Mom nods and Dad stands. Stomping. Tell me your plan. Tell me you at least got a plan. Yes. This is exactly how I want to make this character. I think I'm going to have to make this character as an NPC. This is too fun. I need to make an amusement park in my world. I've never done that before. I've never seen it before, at least in the fantasy adventure I've read. I know it's been done. It's had to have been done. Someone's done it. I guess what's popping to mind, I've never read the books, and I guess it's kind of fantasy adventure would be, I'm sure Harry Potter's got some amusement park scene in it. I'd be shocked if it didn't. Yeah. I think in for joy, now that I'm thinking about it, many years ago, I know Ravenloft, and I think they did more like the Dark Circus or traveling amusement, but it was like, more creepy. It was Ravenloft back in the day too, when you could be dark and gory and really haunting. Unlike now, where it's a little more mellow, which, times change. Sometimes they just get a little bit more boring and normalized, but that's okay. Anyway, that Ravenloft story, I think I can kind of pull, but that was horror. That whole setting is just dark horror. And I don't mind dark horror, but I don't also need it. Another story. It's been done. There are many books on it. I'm thinking of the amusement park now, and Something Wicked This Way Comes, which is a fantastic, well-written book. And that is the traveling. That's still dark, though. They take people's souls. Yeah, I'm just now thinking of that book. Yeah. Something Wicked This Way Comes. It's even a great title. Better than the Lagoon. Might have to change that. Let's go right out the plan. The plan will finish the chapter. Tailin. I got the vowels wrong. Mom nods and Dad says, stomping books. I'm going to stomp books. I'm going to stomp books on the wood porch. No. Stomping boots. Looking beyond at the strong grass fields. Tell me your plan, Tailin. Um, where are they going to put this amusement park in my world? Because I'm going to make this actually a thing. Um, this is the past of how it got created. This would be the book if I ever had time to write this book. And because I won't, I don't use agency to write what I like to do. It's struggling. Type 2 fun, right? Sometimes it's type 1. I do enjoy writing while I'm writing, but I think the journey is more than just joy. And for this journey, I've already got one person willing to invest. And there's lots of land between Lino and what was the other one? Vineway. It's near one of the roads. Land swamp. I'm gonna call it Lagoon. What you gonna call it? Says Mom. That's how. Ooh. That is how this chapter ends. Mom says, "That'd be cool. I like that ending for a chapter. Be chapter first book. What you gonna call it? What's its name?" Mom sighs. Looks from the steps to me. What you gonna call it? Oh, I can make this too. I'm definitely making this a thing. I don't know. Why not? It'd be weird. I don't know if it's gonna end up. I don't know if it end up where you never know where you're gonna start. You have hopes and dreams. What you gonna call it? A lagoon. That land's swamp. That land's still swamp. We are gonna have the floating. How are you gonna protection? There's a reason people don't leave my highway. Until the other region. Business safety. The bandits. The bandits. Brigands. There's brigands. Nothing magical. No magical joy about them. I mean, I do know magic missile. I always write a lot of times magic missile and drop that second eye. Just saying. I almost did that now, but then I remember how many times I wrote Magic Missile with Miss Lee, without the I. I do Magic Missiles. I lied. And my friends from school. Anna and words. Sam, Ann and Sam from school. Ann and Sam. One's a battle wizard, and the other a chemist. And wants to create a an explosive gel. We don't have what we don't, not us. Mom nods. I mean, it's not like exactly something nearly complete fantasy adventure thought about this amusement park that Tay Len was going to build. Even Dara, my closest friend, smirks. Oh, I gotta throw in Dara. It's a lie. That'd be even better. Why bring up these other characters when I got a perfect one? And my friends, Dara and Sam. You haven't met Sam. One's a battle wizard and the other a chemist. Chemist. Wants to create an explosives. Use the blast powder. Money all on us. Mom nods. What else? Money. Does she go on events for money? I got 11 minutes. I just got to think of the money aspect. She can throw out some ideas. Like this would be like, I'm going to go adventure to make an amusement park. For I would really much rather have this money be about at the amusement park and the trial and tribulations of trying to get that thing going. And not necessarily having this one-off little adventure that takes the entire time and then, ooh, I got money for the amusement park. That could be the second book. I'd do this all one. And there's all one book, and it could be a big book. You're just going to put it in front of you and read. As if it's that easy. Not us, says Dad. Mom nods. Money. And I'm going to end the job. My school partners will help, and I can get a job as a jester. Or in the Westmore Theater in Waterdown. A jesser. I'm going to be a jesser. I want to be a jester. Or in Westmore Theater in Watertown. Or perform in Waterdown. No, I want to go city state to desert port. In the city state in Desert Port. Oh, yeah. I need to make a note. And this is while I got something called astral jetting, which is like spell jamming. Astral jetting ships. Don't want to land near the mountains because of giant birds, nor in Vine Way because of the dragon. That's for another storyline I'm making, so I just want to get that note down while I was just thinking of it. I got 8 minutes. And then I'll read this story aloud. Just gotta get a couple more things. School partners will help. I can get a job at Desert. And I'm off to when the sun rises. Dad stares beyond the strong grass field, the physical world. Mom sighs, not sights, sighs, and looks from the steps to me. What are you going to call it? I like how that ends. I think this is good enough. This is how I would start this. I don't need I'd probably start like this and then go in depth each chapter. It's just the way that I write. I got 7 minutes left on this clock. I'm going to leave it going. Hopefully it doesn't vibrate while I'm reading this. But I'm done. This is honestly how I would start this book. I'm going to come back and clean this up. I do like it. It's a fun idea, and I'm going to include this amusing part in my current adventure I stream for Of the Small Shield called Haste Ghost, and I am using Daggerheart for those rules. I stream on Saturdays in the morning on the coast of America. So, United States of America, mind you. Let's be more specific because there's many Americas. There's many Americas within the United States of America, but there's also continents called North and South America. That technically everybody inside those continents are Americans. Something to think about, but that's not fantasy. What is fantasy is the story and these story elements. So for today's Stochastic fiction game. We have these story elements. Setting time past. Setting main location amusement park. Conflict person versus supernatural. Quantity of primary characters 1. Point of view first. Tense present tense. Genre fantasy adventure. Format novel first chapter. I read those aloud. Now I got to put in the blurb about supernatural. Let me go back here. So Taylor feels like she needs to prove to her parents. Comes the deadly trade-off as she finds the land for her amusement park is cheap. Off and hauntings. Let's just leave it there so we don't tell the story. There's going to be a ghost. It's going to be cheap land because there's ghosts in it. Now let's go ahead and do this again. I'm going to read the story elements. I will read the story. I will rate the story. I will be done. Hopefully in 4 minutes. Else this will vibrate and give me a little bit of a jump scare. For today's stochastic fiction game, we have these story elements. Setting time past. Setting main location. Amusement park. Conflict person versus supernatural. Quantity of primary characters 1. Point of view first. Tense past tense. Present tense. Present tense. Genre fantasy adventure. Format novel first chapter. And for the novel Lagoon, this would be the blurb for that Lagoon. Would be Taylin wants to open an amusement park near the city-state of Desert Port. She only needs to define to the people what is an amusement park ride and convince them to pay coin to ride it. Taylin also feels like she needs to prove to her parents they didn't waste money sending her to wizard boarding school while discovering and accepting help from a thieves guild called branching, which comes with deadly trade-offs and hauntings. The first chapter is called What's an Amusement Park? Tentatively. I remember the laughter from the high mage at the magical boarding school, woven arts, and the words, "You're wasting magic on joy and hope." I remember the spoiled apprentice Manny from Waterdown, teasing me in front of the other wizards when walking the Aura Garden or sitting during the spell comprehension class, being called amusement mage. Even Dara, my closest friend, smirks and giggles, shaking her head when I tell her I want to create an amusement park. Dara still says when we talk through Speaking Stone, I want to explore dungeons and slay dragons and not make people laugh. Laughter fills my soul and frees my mind to see magic, and in the laughter I only want to spread the joy. My magic comes from joy. So why would I not want to bring amusement to others? I need joy to cast spells, I tell my parents while they sit on the steps of my old home in Vine Way. That's clown, says Dad. My mom just shakes and says, that makes no sense. Can't you just get angry and cast magic missile to hurt and hunt? Dad nods, looking through the trees to the strong grass fields. Your mother's not wrong. More money in attacking than laughing. Mom nods, and Dad stands, stomping boots on the wood porch, looking beyond at the strong grass fields. Tell me your plan, Taylin. I've already one person to invest, and there's cheap land between Lino and Vine Way. It's near the roads. That land's still swamp, says Dad. Protection? There's brigands, says Mom. No magic joy about 'em. Magic missiles. And, I lied, and my friends from school, Dara and Sam. You haven't met them, Sam. One's a battle mage, the other a chemist, and wants to create explosives. And she'll use the blast powder for small, I know others, and money Not us, Dad, Mom nods. My school partners will help. And I get a job as a jester, perform Westmore Theater in Desert Port. I'm off to buy the land when the sun rises tomorrow. Dad stares beyond the strong grass fields and the physical world. Mom sighs and looks from the steps to me. What are you going to call it? A lagoon. Well, that wasn't too bad. For a stochastic fiction game story, I feel like the chapter could be a little bit longer. Have a little bit more details, build up the characters just a little bit more, unless you want one of those books with some short, choppy sentences. I still have a 1 to 4 here. It's the mood. I like my fantasy adventure. This seems like a fun story. I've never wrote a magical amusement park nor read of one, so I'm really interested in this. I might actually pick it back up. This is between a 3 and a 4 because I usually like to go to the wrestle. We'll just call this one a 3 for today. And with that rating, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to save this, and we're going to mark it as what it was scored. We're going to keep the file and all that creative thought. Write the story in the time. I think it was an hour, I don't know, 25 minutes. I have a video that can show this, and I have a transcript. And the time to create a thing I rate to be 3. We have committed that, and with that, and with the words wrote, and with at least a smile on my face, I'm going to step away from this and maybe try to spread a little bit of joy. I hope you all do the same.